Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Missing Link in Your Healing. This is the podcast where we bring to you pieces of the puzzle that you may not know or you may want to view from a different perspective. We pride ourselves on being holistic and viewing illness and life in general from a very multifaceted point of view. Each of our healing journeys is individual, so please take what resonates with you and leave the rest. I'm on my own today because Loretta's away in Malawi helping with the homeopathic clinic that's just been set up there. So this is the third in 3 episodes. We've already put out 2 on food and eating and our relationship with food. So if you cast your mind back to the first episode we did on this, and the second one, we talked about how most of us have some kind of disordered eating, misaligned relationship with food and eating. And actually, as Marcia very beautifully pointed out, that really is about a misaligned relationship with ourselves and or with our bodies, both, really. So we said we would bring a whole episode on orthorexia, and that's what I'm going to do today. I must say, I only heard the term relatively recently from Loretta, and I had to go and look up what it meant. And when I found out it means that having a very extreme focus on healthy and clean eating can actually become a very serious problem to the point of even death in very rare cases. I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And the more I started researching it, the more I realized that I myself have had a dance with what has now been termed orthorexia. So orthorexia is a type of extremism related to eating healthy and clean food. So in general, of course, what we talk about all the time is the need, if we want to stay healthy, to eat whole foods, to eat clean foods where possible, to eat more vegetables than other things, to eat what resonates with our bodies and what makes us feel healthy. But little did I know till I knew it, that this can become, healthy eating can become an obsession and an extremism. And extremism in any area in our lives is a problem, as we've talked about often. So I definitely recognize that since I got on a very healthy eating path, which was in 2008, which is a long time ago now, this is now 2025, I certainly recognized some of what I'm going to bring to you today, or a large part of it actually in myself, but it's definitely a continuum. So I'm not on the very extreme end where I could possibly be said to have orthorexia nervosa, which, by the way, interestingly, orthorexia is starting to be considered as a clinically certifiable thing, a mental disease and a eating disorder like anorexia nervosa and bulimia. So I also found that quite interesting. So because I recognized a lot of myself in this, I just became really fascinated with it. And Loretta can recognize some of it in herself, and any of us that are very healthy eaters in our focus, I think can recognize the possibility that we may fall somewhere on this continuum. So I'm going to go through some research I did, okay, factual, some science-based, a lot of it from eating disorder groups, proper certified ones, and research that they've done. So it's very much focused towards maybe one end of the continuum of orthorexia, as in it can become a serious problem for people. But please bear in mind, you could be anywhere on the continuum or not at all. As Loretta said once, some people just have a healthy relationship with food. They eat when they're hungry. They don't think about food all the time. A lot of us have a dance with food, as we've discussed in episode 1 and 2. I've never had bulimia or anorexia or any serious eating disorder, but I've most certainly had a dance with my relationship with food, with some kind of healthy binging, as I've shared. Loretta's shared her stuff. We shared a lot of our stuff in the first episode. Marcia shared her journey with bulimia and her relationship with herself, and therefore her relationship with food in our second episode. So please, if you haven't listened to those, go back, and excuse me reiterating some of it, but it might be quite important as a context. So, I mean, sure, there's two ironies here. The one irony is cancer and disease is more prolific than it's ever been, and yet so is the healthy eating movement and the clean eating movement. So there's kind of some disconnect there, although there are a lot of other external environmental factors, including very toxic food on our shelves, that are driving disease. And healthy eating, I reiterate it again, because this episode is not about judging yourself for being a very healthy eater or focusing a lot on healthy and clean food. But just take a listen. I think you'll find it interesting, and you might find yourself, like me, fitting somewhere in the continuum. So orthorexia is a preoccupation, and often unhealthy, with food and body image, but in particular with very healthy, clean food, to the point of extreme obsession for some people. And it's alarmingly is a word I use from the research I've done, on the increase, to the point, as is a bulimia and anorexia nervosa, interestingly, to the point of it becoming a certifiable, getting a certified label, orthorexia. So orthorexia, obsessive and extreme fixation with consuming only pure and healthy foods, primarily focusing on the quality and cleanliness of the food. But often for people, it will also be about how the food's made, where it's made, what kind of factory it's produced in. It can go quite wide spectrum, this, I know that. And individuals with orthorexia, the main focus is exhibiting very rigid dietary rules and becoming increasingly preoccupied with meal sourcing, preparation, and nutritional content. Okay. So yeah, in and of itself, healthy eating is critical. So I'm constantly repeating myself. But so I'm just going to go through the research now. So warning signs and symptoms of orthorexia, and why are we even telling you this? So just take a listen. For people with orthorexia, the pursuit of a perfect diet takes up a significant amount of time and energy, to the point with some people at the extreme that it can interfere with work, relationships, schooling, and their whole social life. Some warning signs: the research says that your wellness plan could be leading you down an unhealthy path. And this I got from NEDA, National Eating Disorders Association, is you compulsively check ingredients and nutritional labels and have a heightened concern about ingredients being healthy. Being concerned about ingredients being healthy is good. I've been doing it since 2008. But having an intense fear of unhealthy foods and avoiding them is one of the symptoms of this. And obsessively following a dietary pattern and not being able to deviate from it at all in any circumstances. Spending all your time, I mean, that's quite extreme, but spending a lot of time, maybe even planning, buying, and preparing healthy meals. Taking an unusual interest in the health of other people's food. Loretta mentioned she looks in people's trolleys. I do the same and go, oh my word, look how they eat. Or I sit in restaurants and I see what people at my table order, and my mind, I don't do it much anymore, but I used to go, look what those people are eating. So I definitely had an unusual interest in other people's food, whether it was healthy or not. Another thing is you obsess over what food may be available at events or restaurants and are distressed when clean or healthy foods aren't available. So you could then avoid eating out, avoid eating food prepared by others, or of fear that the food, if you don't prepare it yourself, won't meet your standards or will be unhealthy. You bury yourself in food research. It's one thing to spend a few minutes scanning a product label, which I do all the time, or surfing the web for information on ingredients or healthy food. But with orthorexia, you may spend hours thinking about food and planning meals. Most people have body image concerns, people with orthorexia or potentially with orthorexia, and often losing weight in an unhealthy manner due to food restricting. This wasn't an issue for me, but certainly other people I've spoken to have said it has been for them. Fear of losing control. You feel that you're doing the right thing by eating healthy, but you may also be afraid that eating one meal you didn't prepare, including dinner at a restaurant, can be disastrous. So you find yourself in this vicious cycle. Your preoccupation with food causes you to bounce between self-love and guilt as you change and restrict your diet. I can put my hand up for that. There are so many and varied aspects of healthy eating a sufferer might fixate on. As I said before, the nutrients in the food, the way it's prepared, certain ingredients that you feel aren't healthy, or the absence of others that should be there. There are so many rabbit holes we can go down in a quest for health that it can become paralyzing. But like many eating disorders, mental diseases, and other things out there, it's often invisible to the person, even to the person suffering. I had no idea I was even on this continuum until I started doing this research. But in hindsight, I can tell you that I never had a major eating disorder ever. I never ate to lose weight, but I was and still can be exceptionally preoccupied with food. And is it going to be bad for me? Should I be eating it? Make a choice to eat something like a pizza, which I wouldn't really choose. Giving myself permission to do that. And then on some unconscious level, some little inner quiet voice going, you know, you shouldn't be eating this, Antoinette. And I never saw it as a fear-based thing. But having done episodes with Loretta and doing this research, there was some part of me, I don't know what the fear was. I don't think it was fear for me of being unhealthy. I never went on a very healthy, organic, plant-based eating plan because I wanted to lose weight or I was scared of getting sick. There was no illness in my horizon. It was just a kind of culture that I got exposed to that resonated with me. Oh, I'm lying. Sorry. I went to fast on water for 21 days in Thailand because I had fibromyalgia and I cured myself. It was a very extreme thing to do. I wouldn't recommend 21 days ever, but I cured myself. And while I was there was a lot of education about food, like animal products and how cruel the animal farming is, particularly in America. I don't know other countries. I only know South Africa. It's not like that. It's more natural, although there's still an element of it that's awful. And they talked a lot about food, especially animal products. And I came back and I was like, I'm going to go raw food, vegetarian, vegan. I'm going to cut out, I decided I was going to cut out meat, wheat, sugar, dairy, and gluten. But I did allow myself after a few months, because for 3 months I did that very strictly. And I actually wasn't very well after the 3 months. I never got fibromyalgia or anything again, but I was pale. My color wasn't good. My hair was lank and falling out. I can't remember all the symptoms. So I went off to a homeopath and he said, "What are you eating?" So I told him, he said, you're not getting enough fat, you're not getting enough protein. Because the thing about me is I'm not good on lentils or pulses or beans. So I wasn't including that in my vegetarian diet. And actually, Ayurveda showed me that my body type does not actually thrive on cold food, on cold anything. It likes cooked food, it likes warm and rich food. I wasn't getting enough fat in this diet. So this guy said to me, "No, you've got to change the way you're eating." So I started introducing, at that stage, after 3 months, I started cooking some food. I reintroduced a bit of feta and some eggs. And on Saturdays, I used to let myself have coffee. Oh, I gave up coffee too. I only was allowed coffee on Saturdays and sometimes on Sundays. And I had this 80-20 thing. And I ended up doing that regime diet, eating plan for 10 years, being tried to eat organic food, read every single label. Since 2008, I've never bought a thing where I haven't read the label. And I don't see that as an unhealthy obsession, but I have always, it was only 20% of the time until 8 years ago, I always went to restaurants. I tried to choose the healthiest meal, but I wouldn't question what the ingredients were. I wouldn't ask if there was MSG. I assumed there was MSG and sugar, but I ate it. So I definitely wasn't very far on this extreme. I then landed up in a place where I've lived for at least 6 years now, where there isn't very much healthy food anywhere. So it's been a whole different journey, but I don't want to share any more than that about. So that's how I started on this, actually. I forgot about that. But then it became, even though I started introducing cooked food and a little bit of animal products, honey, feta, and eggs, I was obsessed with what I ate. And I would go out and have a pizza. By the way, I was still drinking alcohol on a very functional level. I mean, I wasn't drinking in the morning or at lunch, but I was drinking a couple of whiskeys every night. And that is the healthiest drink. But it's interesting how I just kind of fitted that in with all this healthy eating. But I became very obsessed with it especially when I moved to an area where there was a lot of vegan and vegetarian food and chefs and restaurants, and it was a culture, and everybody was really, really into it and very anti this and anti the other stuff. And I actually became, I didn't realize until long afterwards, I was really quite obsessed, and I was eating other stuff because I freaking love pizza sometimes and all that. Well, that's when I was eating some cheese and all that. But there was always this little guilt inside of me. And this, like, so many times I remember going to coffee shops, so many times, even up until recently, and going, well, can I really have a cappuccino rather than black coffee? Because I do drink coffee now once a day. Can I really have a pastry or half a pizza? I mean, most people wouldn't even think about this. So whether I could have it or not, the mental gymnastics around that, the should I, shouldn't I, yes I will, and no, I'm not going to feel guilty, I'm just going to enjoy it, I put it in my mouth, it's a taste explosion, I enjoy it, it's not something I even do all the time. But there's some little voice I started noticing that's going, Antoinette. And the mental gymnastics is the biggest issue, actually, because that kind of psychological over-analyzing what you eat, ruminating over what you're eating or have eaten, so considering, should I or shouldn't I have the coffee? Can I have a second coffee? Should I be having 2 eggs? And I mean, they're quite stupid examples, but it became a very obsessive thinking process for me, the mental gymnastics, actually. It was never about weight or anything, but I had this weird relationship going on with food and healthy food. And I still do to a large extent, but I'm very aware of it now. So we're going to talk a little bit more. I don't want to share more than that now, but I'll come back to some of that. So, yeah. So why is this on the increase, by the way, in 2025 we are now? And the prevalence of this, some of the estimates in the research I visited show that they vary, the estimates vary very, very widely. And there's not that many studies yet on there. But some of the studies are reporting as much as 90.6% prevalence. So why? Fear of sickness is definitely a reason. You worry about how clean food is or how bad it is for your health. And it wasn't that for me. It was more like a control issue and not wanting to be a naughty girl issue, but we'll come to that just now. Number 2, the media's portrayal of unrealistic body standards. I don't think that ever affected me, but maybe it did unconsciously. But it is certainly a factor, the pervasive influence of social media and social pressures to conform to certain body ideals. There's no doubt that has played a role. And clean eating trends and their impact. There has been such an upsurge in the prevalence of clean eating ideals in society, and that's fabulous. But not until I did this research did I realize the real dark side and downside potentially of this. So yes, it's great that we're pursuing healthier lifestyles and making more mindful dietary choices. But as I said, it's pretty ironical that disease and cancer in particular is more prevalent than it's ever been. And it's not only because of this, but part of the mental gymnastics, the control issues, all of that go with this undoubtedly affect our body and our immune system. So yes, it's very positive, but the but is it has a potential for creating very rigid eating patterns, unrealistic body standards, and the stigmatization of certain foods, which also is not always bad. And this pursuit for healthy and healthiest diets it continues, and it has become a minefield out there. Loretta and I talked about this on our first food episode. It's a minefield. There are so many people talking about what's healthy, and it changes all the time, and it's changed over time. I started actually really on a healthy eating path in my 30s. It was 30 or my 20s. It's like 40 odd years ago. And the things that were healthy then are certainly not things that are seen as healthy now. And it changes. I mean, at one stage, none of us touched butter. Okay, I'm quite old, so younger people don't remember this maybe because it was so high in fat and we were all avoiding fat. So we ate that yellow margarine. Then we found out margarine's full of chemicals and it's made of plastic. Oh, we all go back to butter. But I mean, honestly, butter was a sin at one stage of my younger life. The 90s, 80s and 90s, we followed this like really low fat thing. These days, ketogenic diets, veganism, and very low carb diets are the range. And if you think there's a controversy about the right amount of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins you should eat, the conversation can get downright ugly and confusing if we start talking about specific things like gluten. So it can be sticky, this, because there's no one perfect definition of health, and there's no perfect definition of what makes a food healthy or not. But Loretta asked me to throw this in again because it's the truth, and she's not chat. Generally speaking, this is the rule for healthy eating. Eat whole foods, they're healthier. And a better way to look at food, she says, is to consider its nutritional value. Is it more or is it less nutritious? This takes the idea of good and bad out of the equation. So thank you for throwing that in, Loretta. I'm speaking it on your behalf. Because the thing is, all this ambiguity can leave a person vulnerable, constantly questioning their decisions, as it did with me, eating a rigidly narrow set of approved foods, or some people, never me, because I love food too much, abstaining from eating altogether. Okay, so So, yeah, when health choices only become a problem when they dictate your life and they became a good or bad thing to the extent that they're tied to your self-worth, okay? Like you're skipping out on eating out with friends, although there's always choices you can make, even when you eat out, that are healthier than most others. And I had to ward off, and this is in the research, feelings of perceived failure or lack of discipline because I wasn't sticking to this very healthy lifestyle. So what are the causes of this? Okay. Some of these overlap with what I've said earlier. It starts out as a good intention and interest in supporting your health, as it did for me. So we simply start tweaking our diets with intention to improve our health. And sometimes it just becomes too extreme and goes overboard. And there's a lot in between those two. So even though people aren't really sure what causes it, many factors seem to play a role. This is where it became interesting for me. Obsessive compulsive tendencies with food. Anxiety, interesting one for me. Individuals who have a history of anxiety and stress are more prone to developing it. It doesn't mean you will, but you're more prone. Social factors, it's again one of those, it could go either way. Experts say for many people, social factors like more knowledge of nutrition, higher income, and access to clean and organic foods can drive you, only can, doesn't have to, towards developing orthorexia. Can be a weight issue thing. As I've said, it wasn't that for me, but it can be. Studies also show vegans and vegetarians only can, it doesn't mean you will. Very many healthy vegetarians and vegans like Loretta. I'm a vegetarian again now. And I'm certainly, if there is any orthorexia in me, it's being healed because I'm very aware of it. But vegans and vegetarians have a higher possibility. You can imagine why. Okay. So there are potentially serious health and psychological consequences of this. So I'm going to cite research again. In recent years, research has increasingly shed light on the detrimental consequences of disordered eating behaviors. Engagement in these behaviors can lead to, if it's extreme, severe mental and health issues, including nutritional deficiencies and psychological disorders. Electrolyte imbalances, besides nutritional deficiencies, disturbances in metabolic function, can be the physical, and your overall health. It can cause mental health issues. I think that definitely was part of it with me, including depression, anxiety, body dysmorphic disorders. Eating disorders, just as an interesting fact, have the second highest mortality of any mental illness. I didn't know that. So who's most likely to become orthorexic? This is the part where I saw, in hindsight, that's why we put out this stuff. If I'd known this, I would have maybe known what to look out for. Please, I don't regret that I went on that healthy eating path, and because I'm still a very healthy, I'm a healthy eater. It's just the way I live. But this mental gymnastics, so risk factors include personality traits like perfectionism, need for control, dieting history, which I never had, but many do, body dissatisfaction. I always had that, even though I never had any reason to, sadly. A history of trauma, anxiety, depression, substance abuse can be contributing factors. So I definitely had a history of trauma, as I've shared, had anxiety. I've never had huge depression or major substance abuse, but yeah, you all know my story. And once again, they cite social influences, more media portrayals of body ideals, etc. So while some people are more vulnerable than others, let's make no mistake, it's a societal disease. And the biggest cause, according to one article I read, a woman who wrote a book called The Body Positivity. card deck. She's got cards and a dieter's survival handbook. It's a blog about her own journey with food and anorexia. This is what she said. I'm not saying we 100% agree with it, but it's something to consider. The biggest cause of orthorexia is the diet and wellness culture. Anytime a person manipulates their food for the purpose of weight loss, it's a diet. And it comes with all the same pitfalls as any other diet. So I don't know, I just found this absolutely fascinating. And then I was interested to see what the experts cite as the treatment for this. And it's a multidisciplinary approach, including psychoeducation, which is a word I'd never heard before. But that is helping individuals understand it and its consequences. So that's exactly what we do on this podcast, actually. I'd say it's psychophysical spiritual education, just insights. Cognitive behavioral therapy, interesting. Just targets maladaptive thoughts. If you don't know what CBT is, look it up. It's very interesting if you've got a difficult mental state. Nutritional counseling focuses on restoring a healthy relationship with food. So that's why we put out the first 2 episodes. Marcia talked about how she needed to restore her relationship with herself to restore a healthy relationship with food. Loretta talked, and I talked about many aspects of it in our first episode. So this is part of potential treatment if you think you've fallen into this orthorexia trap. Mindfulness practices, promoting self-awareness and reducing perfectionism. And one thing Loretta and I talked about, I think Marcia might have as well, is to just observe your relationship with food and start mindfully when you put your food in your mouth, chew it. Don't be on the phone. Try and stop that mind racing. It's not always possible. Taste your food. Does it taste yummy to you? Does it, how are you feeling when you eat it? And particularly, how are you feeling after you eat it? Because those are the real mindfulness practices that will help you. It's like a meditation with food. So we don't have to spend an hour on a yoga mat and meditating every day. As we said before, we can. But we can employ meditative and yogic practices, mindful practices in everything we do, from washing the dishes to eating our food. So yeah, it starts with just self-awareness and observing how you eat, when you eat, how do you feel about what you eat, what are your eating patterns, do you have any gluttony, which is a word I use, are you reaching for food to distract yourself, are you soothing yourself with food? All of this we covered in the first 2 episodes. And now to add to it is, are you obsessively obsessed? Are you extremist about what you're eating and how clean it is and how healthy it is? Be focused on healthy eating, but extremism in any form is not good, just reminding you. So just to end up, we never intended ever to speak about food or our relationship with food or food disorders. It's just been something that's been coming into my awareness through conversations with friends, through meeting Marcia, who did that amazing episode, through Loretta and I often talking about our dance with food. We're both very, very healthy eaters, particularly at Loretta, but had our own dance with food and how we eat and why we eat. Loretta with weight issues, me with some form of very healthy gluttony nonetheless. So we started these episodes with food, and I end up wanting to do this one on orthorexia. So just bear in mind, okay, the research shows that 30 million Americans, 30 million, experience a clinically significant eating disorder. We're not talking about the orthorexia that's not an eating disorder. We're talking about a serious eating disorder. Bulimia, anorexia, this orthorexia nervosa, if it gets labeled that, 30 million people experience this, and only a third of them ever receive treatment, according to the Alliance for Eating Disorder Awareness. So if you know anybody that's having a dance, or not just a dance, an extreme relationship, unhealthy relationship with food to the point of orthorexia, obsessive healthy eating, or any of the other eating things we've spoken about on the other 2 episodes, please share all or 1 or 2 or 3 of these episodes, because sure, it's been a real eye-opener for me, and it's been really helpful for me to talk to Master, to talk to Loretta about this, what Loretta brought, the research I've done. So I hope it's been insightful for you and possibly even valuable, and brought a different perspective and maybe a missing link in your healing. So we look forward to hearing back from you by email or in our comments on YouTube. Please write us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen, because it really helps our ratings. And we really want to try and get this valuable information out to more and more people. That is our passion and our purpose. Like us, follow us, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and keep sharing with other people so we can spread the psycho-spiritual physical education as far and wide as possible, just to help as many as possible. Okay, lots of love.